Call the meeting to order. Okay. I don't even know what to say to do that.
Good afternoon. Call the annual meeting.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for coming, and we are officially calling this meeting to order.
And welcome, everybody, and thank you for making the time to be here. And thank you again, I mentioned this in church, to everyone who submitted reports to the annual report, and thank you to Jane Farnan for putting it together. It's quite a task. And let's begin as we always do. Is that my voice echoing again?
He's got it.
I enjoy hearing myself. And, let's begin as we begin all good things with prayer. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Almighty and ever-living God, ruler of all things in heaven and earth, hear our prayers for this parish family. Strengthen the faithful, arouse the careless, and restore the penitent. Grant us all things necessary for our common life, and bring us all to be of one heart and mind within your holy church, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Heather?
Good morning. The minutes from last year's annual meeting are available, and if anyone has any questions, of course, I'd be happy to answer.
Maybe we need to pass this around.
Good morning. The minutes from the annual meeting from last year are available. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to see them, or if anyone has any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. And otherwise, would someone like to
I move that they be approved.
make that motion?
All
Great.
those in favor?
So approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have our treasurer's report. Ned Worthington.
Good morning, everybody. Fun to be here, and I think happy to deliver a successful report, which is in large part thanks to all of you. So give yourselves a round of applause or a pat on the back or whatever you whatever you want to do. It really was a remarkable year, and will be for the year ahead as well. In many part, just thanks to participation. And I did want to give a special shout out to Amy Sussman, who led a stewardship campaign that was truly one for the record books. That result, Amy, $621,950 in pledge income, which is over 50% of our operating budget for the year ahead. It's normally about 50%, but every little bit helps. And certainly during my time as treasurer, that's an all-time record. So thank you, Amy, and thank all of you, too, for the participation. In light of that, what we were able to do is raise the operating budget, which is great news. So the operating budget is actually up 14% from last year, all the way up to $1.18 million. And so that just allows us to, extend in our ministries, broadly speaking. So everything from music and outreach to the care for the grounds, and certainly, our clergy leadership as well. And another part of it that we take very seriously is, caring for the staff that care for us throughout the year. So we were able to make a, significant increase to staff pay this year, which is great. And we'll continue to grow as well in, the technology, website, marketing. That's been a real good source of growth for the church over the last couple of years, really since COVID, when we were forced to go online, and we did it with gusto. So there's a lot more people in the church, and people watching from home as well, which is great. You all may remember that a lot of the operating budget is contributed by stewardship. Another portion is contributed by our investment endowment. And so what we've selected to draw for this year is 3% for operating, and that's really in line with standard. What we have done, for the past several years is 3% endowment draw to operating, and then 1.25% to capital expenditures. And that was actually slightly less for the last 2 years. We had 0.5% and 0.6%. But if you've been around on campus and you've seen the lovely new church roof and all the work that Lewis Hogan's done with the Stevenson University Rosewood Stewart Extension, we really want to build that account back up. We had some major projects on grounds this past year that have decreased that somewhat, so we're going to be in great shape to rebuild that and continue working on all the lovely projects we have for buildings and grounds. This place never sleeps, I will tell you that. And Barrett, I see you nodding here in the front row. So getting back to the endowment, I think Andy Brooks is going to speak a little bit. He's our Finance and Investment Committee chair, but it was a terrific year for our managed endowment. T. Rowe Price does a great job for us and once again delivered stellar results. I'll let him speak to that. But I can tell you that standing up here this year, if you remember 2022, so the 2023 meeting, not so good a year in the markets. And I was always laughing because I took this job over in March 2020. March 2020, COVID, right? I told Tony when I started, I said, well, do you want to fire me? I've already lost 17%. So we have better results this year, and Andy and I are looking forward to sharing those. And largely speaking, we really are in a fortunate financial position really across all of our funds and operating and capital expenditures budget. And we're always happy to answer questions, but the entire vestry and myself, we take the role of stewardship of this incredible place and community very seriously, and we want to be there, and keep the assets there to keep it growing. So with that, I'll stop and just ask for any questions. Okay. Hearing none, I appreciate it very much, and I'll hand it back to Tom.
And thank you so much, Ned. You do such a great job just taking care of all this for us. So the wardens and I, all of us, are just really grateful. And we're also grateful to Andy Brooks.
Thank you. So I'm thinking I don't need a microphone. No, I need a microphone. All right, jeez, okay. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. First of all, I'd like to extend a thanks to the vestry and to Ned for the great stewardship that you all have been doing here. It's been terrific. As Ned mentioned, we did have a pretty good year in 2023. The markets were very favorable, and the endowment has a significant tilt towards growth and towards a long-term perspective. The church is 280 years old, and we're trying to make sure that we put the money to work to reflect that. What's really been great is the very modest draw of approximately 4% or 4.25% that the vestry is taking from the endowment every year, and I would say that exemplifies the stewardship that's going on. You all might be familiar with other organizations, but when you get north of 5% draws, that's really not necessarily the best thing for the long-term health of an endowment. So when you can get around 4 for operating, that's a pretty good thing. It's good discipline, and it allows most of the money to stay in the endowment and to work on behalf of the parish. So our asset allocation was favorable. We were underweight to international a little bit and overweight equities, and we had some good relative performance from our fixed income portfolio. And I would say that we had a meeting a couple weeks ago with T. Rowe Price, the Finance and Investment Committee did, and the market last year, you all might know, was pretty narrow in its leadership. So you got these magnificent 7 stocks, and think about Microsoft and Google and Meta and Tesla and things like that. And we have some exposure there, but not very much. So our equities underperformed the S&P by about 100 basis points, but we beat our benchmark by 100 basis points. So we do, like, for example, we have a little bit of NVIDIA, but the weighting in the S&P is probably about 4.5%. It might be 5% now because it was up so much last week. We might have 1.5%. So it's kind of hard sometimes to perform really well against a broader benchmark when it's so concentrated. We feel, of course, very good that the portfolio is invested in really high-quality companies, and they're all names that you would know. And so it's a thoughtful long commitment kind of based investment portfolio that we feel good about. You might expect us during this first quarter of 2024 to be taking advantage of better fixed income market opportunities. We were light a little bit in fixed income last year. Now with yields where they are, interest rates haven't risen, there's an opportunity to perhaps get some performance from that sector. So we think our asset mix will probably adjust a little bit to a little more fixed income and a little less equities. But I think overall we feel very good about where we're positioned and how we're positioned. The committee, I'm happy to say, is functioning well. We've got a great group. I thank them most sincerely for their efforts and their insight. We're having good discussions about things, which is terrific. And I am, as well, happy to answer any questions anybody might have. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to step down. Thank you, Tom.
And now Ned's back to talk about the 2024 budget.
So I won't take up too much more of your time this morning, but did just want to talk through the operating budget very quickly. As you can see, normally speaking, we have a lot more expense categories than we have income categories, but our income categories are strong. We have, as mentioned earlier, the biggest part of that is stewardship. That's about 53% of the full budget. And then our endowment draw makes up about 30%, 29% this year. So those are the large budget inputs for operating, and on top of that, what's been a real winner recently for us has been the generosity of parishioners in terms of non-pledge receipts and other income and gifts has been extraordinary. For last year, for example, we were up 285% relative to what we budgeted in terms of parishioner gifts and non-pledge receipts. So that's, that's allowed us to really make continued investments in other areas, in other ministries, in the staff that we would not be able to otherwise. So we thank you all for that. Really, as I mentioned earlier, what we've done this year with the budget as a whole is, extend. And we, as Andy mentioned, we try to keep the pull from our endowment at a reasonable level, and the target really we have for that long term is 4%. So we have, we actually are at exactly 4% on a 5-year rolling average, which is great, and we don't want to tax our endowment draw too much. But this year, with giving where it was, we have been able to, increase in other areas. So, keeping up this campus is a huge part of the budget. We've been able to increase there, increase our outreach budget slightly, and I will also add that we did a filing this year for the employee retention tax credit. It's a payroll tax credit through the federal government. We had initially considered doing this back in 2022 and ended up kind of looking at what it might mean, but we went through that process with Venable this January for the year ahead, and net of expenses, we're expected to take in about $140,000 from that effort. So that's a sizable amount of money that can hopefully go into supporting long-term endowments for bolstering our Craddock unrestricted endowment, and then also creating endowments above and beyond the current restricted funds for both outreach and our organ restoration fund. So those are, good results there as well. On the expense side of things, as mentioned, really most of our priorities there, just each year we want to increase a little bit. We want those budgets to grow. We want those ministries to grow. And so, for items like the cemetery restoration, that's been an ongoing project that Jesse started, 2 or 3 years, November 21, I think, right, Jesse? So we're going to continue that important project and make sure we have our cemetery looking lovely. That's obviously the perpetual care part of the endowment speaks very, very clearly to what what our responsibilities are there. Same thing with music and outreach. I always laugh. When the bishop came to visit us and consecrated Tom, I believe, as our new rector, he said, really, the two things that matter in churches are music and worship. So we like to, continue to extend. Wanda, you've done wherever you are, you've done an amazing job with our music program, and it really leads to a joyful Sunday morning every time we're over there. So thank you for that. And then again, another huge part of what we do, which you saw in the bulletin today, is outreach, and we want to continue to fund, our longstanding community partners, the Community Crisis Center in Reisterstown, St. Paul's Place, and so, growing those items and our outreach across the community is a huge part of what we do, and an area that we want to contribute to not only in our operating budget, but also, when we get windfalls like the ERC payment, for example, or parishioner gifts, we try to grow that program because, from the sermon and talking about Hezbollah and our Afghan friends, I mean, there are so many areas of impact that we have here through those programs. So really what you'll see in the budget from the expense side of things is reasonably consistent with last year, just kind of, as I mentioned, an extension everywhere we can. So I'm happy to answer any questions we have about the budget. And if there are none now, you can always ask them later too. If you think of them at 12 o'clock at night, just call me tomorrow. Don't call me at 12.
Is there any large capital projects coming up this year?
It's a great question. So relative to last year, no. The church roof obviously was a huge, huge capital expense that we really had built up for over 2 or 3 years. And then obviously, Lewis, you've done an amazing job running an easement for our connection to public sewer, which will be, a huge, that's a dirty business, if you will, but one that we now have in place, and having a public sewer connection so that we don't have to pump or potentially even replace the entire sewage, system here at church is an amazing thing. Lewis deserves, certainly a lot of praise for that. But yeah, Mitch, we have aging infrastructure, so we're always putting some into deferred maintenance for, system things that go bump in the night. But we don't have any, major systems changes this year, which we did last year. Yeah. Yeah, Nora.
I'm just curious, what did that beautiful cedar-shaped shingle cost?
A lot. I think Barrett.
It was under 300,000.
Yeah, I think in the 285 range. Yeah. And it's a gorgeous roof, and our partners at S&K who did an amazing job, and the great news there is I think it's expected to last 50 years, right, Barrett?
Beyond my time.
Yeah. Probably beyond mine, too. Anyway, any other questions?
I have a question that's probably evident to everybody here but me, because this is the first annual meeting I've ever been to. But when we take money out of the endowment for the operating fund, do we pay what I always call a downtown assessment on it? Our parish is assessed right by the diocese.
Correct.
And do we have to pay assessment on the money that we're taking out? It's already our money?
We pay, so the way that the diocesan pledge is calculated is effectively, it's a percentage of our operating budget. So what we take out of the endowment, we do kind of tithe to the diocese, if you will, but what remains in the endowment, because that's not a part of our operating budget, that is not taxed, if you will. But great question. Yep. All right. Hearing none, I'll hand it back to Tom. Thank you.
One of our key ministries is our preschool, and unfortunately Nicole Norris, our wonderful preschool director, couldn't be here today, but we did ask Kathy Resnick, who is the chair of the preschool board. Oh, there you are. You were behind the lectern. I was thinking I was going to have to stall. And Kathy is a parishioner, of course, and chair of the preschool board and doing just a wonderful job, and so we asked Kathy to give a report about the school.
Good morning, everyone. I am thrilled to be involved with the preschool. There is so much for this church to be proud of with that preschool. As you know, the preschool is a ministry of the church. They are not just squatters over here. They are a ministry. And I'm going to start with just wonderful news. First of all, I don't know how many of you know that the preschool and the kindergarten are fully accredited and certified by the Maryland State Department of Ed, which is wonderful. Not every preschool in the area is, so we should be very proud of that. All of the lead teachers are also fully licensed and accredited by MSDE, which again is not always the case in every preschool. We operate under a school licensing, not a daycare license, which again is a real plus. We're also, as of last year, a part of the National Association of Episcopal Schools. And that was just a wonderful thing to help try and bring the church and the preschool closer together. We also now, because of that relationship, provide benefits to the teaching staff there, which is something that had not been done in previous years. I think it's going to help retain staff, and it's something we should do, really. We are fully full for next year already for the 2- and 3-year-old classes. We have no openings. We have a few openings left in the pre-K and kindergarten class. So if you have children or no children who want to enroll in our pre-K or K class, now's the time to do it. One of the things that Nicole has worked really hard on is comparing our tuition costs to other local preschools, and we are still lower in tuition than other preschools within our immediate area. It's hard, but we're doing it. And because of the benefits that we offered teachers last year, we are a little bit in the hole, but Paul has told us that within 2 years, he thinks, we'll be out with minimal teacher raises and tuition increases. We should be able to bring ourselves out of the hole. One of the things I did want to mention also is that we have some people on our board who will be leaving after this term, and we are more than happy to entertain anyone else who might be interested in serving on our preschool board. We meet once a month by Zoom, and you don't have to be an expert in preschool, just be very interested in helping and serving. The big thing I also want to mention is their big fundraiser is coming up at the beginning of May. It's called Spring Fling, and you will be hearing more about it. There is going to be a list developed of items that would be nice to be donated for the auction baskets that they are putting together. I think, for example, they're going to have a dinosaur basket, so books about dinosaurs and that sort of thing, but there will be a list coming out. So, having said that, I'm proud of the preschool. Yes? We have a total of 17 in the preschool. It currently has 65. Well, we take a total of 10 in the kindergarten class, which is really a wonderful ratio. And there's, 2 teachers, a lead teacher, and then an assistant in there. Like I said, we do have openings still in pre-K and kindergarten. The parents of this preschool would love, love, love Remember, we are still below other preschools in the area. Tuition, we did vote to increase by 10% next year. The curriculum is the Reggio Emilio curriculum. It's very nature-based, hands-on, that sort of thing. Anything else? Yes.
Okay, if any parishioner wants to come and help out, I mean, not necessarily on payroll, but just
A volunteer?
the time.
Oh, that would be lovely. You would be more than welcome, and you just would have to contact Nicole Norris, here at the preschool. Mr. Paul Corbin comes quite a bit and reads to the children. They always need help on the playground, serving snacks, that kind of thing. So that would be lovely. Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And as you can tell, Kathy is just an excellent chair of the preschool board, and Paul Corbin, as treasurer, has put in just an enormous amount of time. And one new development is Paul, as preschool treasurer, will be joining the Finance and Investment Committee of St. Thomas's Church, just another way for the preschool and the church to be closer together. And now it's time for the warden's report. Jessie Van Giesen.
Thank you. I tried to write things down, but I don't know. We'll see. Thank you all for coming. I want to make sure that you all have a copy of the annual report. Does everybody get one? Okay. If you didn't pick up one on the way out, you've already heard from Reverend Tom, Ned, our very capable treasurer, our finance committee. Ned and Andy, I can't imagine what my tenure would have been like without you. Thank you so much for staying on and keeping us running. And Kathy, thank you for talking about the preschool. I actually was surprised at how many questions there were, so that's really nice to see that interest. Anyway, there's a lot more in the report, so I want to make sure that you read that. But I just want to kind of point out, I don't know about you, but it feels to me like we're headed in the right direction, right? Okay, hopefully nobody disagrees with that. There's just so much to celebrate in truth. And I talked about celebration last year, and I'm just going to keep talking about it because I feel like if you look beyond the financial reports and you read and you listen and you look at what's happening around here and you talk to people, we're headed in the right direction. Barrett, you think so? Good. All right. That's good because you're stepping up. So, for those of you who are actively growing our ministries as just enthusiastic lay leaders, volunteers, thank you, and keep the good ideas flowing, right? And I will be here getting more involved in different things, and I'm super excited about that. Just a couple of highlights, right? Last year, Tom performed 9 baptisms. We all know how much he loves those.
Not enough. Not enough.
And those joyful moments, as well as some weddings, contributed to 34 new members. That's pretty good. Yeah. And I see on page 4 that there were 320 services last year. Really? Yeah. So I would say it's time to get Tom some help. But that's awesome, right? 365 days, 320 services. I know they weren't all, on different days, but it's pretty awesome. And, Sunday attendance, yet again, has increased. Average Sunday attendance in 2021 was 88 when we were, coming out of COVID. It increased in 2022 to 117, and now in 2023, we're seeing an average Sunday attendance of 135. So put your hands together for Reverend Tom. Also, we have a great staff. Jane, Barb, Wanda, Ricky, Chris, Sarah, Amy, Laura. Am I forgetting anybody? Kristen. Kristen is our new parish secretary, doing a great job. So, really without all of them together, doing their individual tasks, but really working as a team and working with Tom and all of us, this place would not be what it is. So thank you all, and let's put our hands together for them. Also, just kind of going back to that average Sunday attendance, I want to encourage all of you to continue to welcome people when they come through our doors, or when you're out in the community. Talk about St. Thomas's, read the report, look at all the great things that we're doing, and share that with people, right? We'll continue to grow. So I do, as I'm getting ready to step away from my 8 years on the vestry, I want to thank you all for being so supportive of me. I've met people throughout my life who've served in similar roles in other churches, and many of them have told me that the challenges of the day-to-day stuff or the politics in the church office or whatever made them lose interest in their church and even their faith a little bit. And I want to say that, you know, that's a terrible thing. I mean, the thought of that is terrible to me. And I am very grateful that that is not the case for me, right? For me, things don't get any better than St. Thomas's Church and our community. And I don't mean we're perfect. What I mean is that we all bring what we have, and we love each other, and we complement each other, and we do good things together. So I'm still here. I'm going to be here for as long as I can. And I do want to say that Tom and Ned and Heather and Barrett and so many others are all outstanding examples of that. They are outstanding leaders with levels of perception that I will continue to strive for. Perfect models. Thank you. And then really the last thing is I was thinking through the last 4 years, and I'm just wondering, do you all know that we had our doors closed for 11 and a half months? Yeah. 2020 and 2021, that's crazy, right? When you really think about it. When you put those numbers together, 11 and a half months could have done a lot of damage, and yet look at this. Here we are. We're all here. We're together. We're still together. We're still going to be together. And so, you know, that's because of all of you. That's not because of me or any, you know, or the vestry or any individuals. It's from all of us together. And so I really just want to thank you for standing alongside of me and teaching me how to be more faithful, and for enabling me to work alongside of you for many years to come. That's it. Don't sit down, Barrett. There you go.
All I can say is this is going to be one tough act to follow. a really tough act to follow. Yes.
Okay, this wasn't a question, but I brag about this church and the rector always, and the lovely people. And I think it's probably about 9 years for me, and the beautiful choir. I mean, on a daily basis, I bump into somebody and always talking about St. Thomas. My mother and I just love it here.
Thank you. Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Well, she is going to be an exceedingly difficult act to follow. All I can tell you is with God's help, I'll do my best. I did not have any other prepared remarks, except I do have some proposed changes to our bylaws, and they were emailed to you within the last couple of weeks. They're on a poster board, and I'm going to run through with you real quick the 4 areas of change because they require a vote. I don't think our bylaws have been changed since the first Van Giesen administration about 14 years ago. So they needed a little cleaning up. And so the first change, area of change that we made is we made our pronouns more contemporary and consistent with our reality. throughout the bylaws, they referred to any of the officers as he, exclusively he. And every officer here has been a he or a she over the past, as long as I've been here. So we've changed where it said vestrymen to members of the vestry, and we've changed he to he or she. Pretty pro forma stuff. The second change is to Article 5, Section 3. Up until now, any expense of more than $1,000 has to be approved in advance by the vestry, and that's been pretty cumbersome. So the change there is that expenses between $1,000 and $5,000 can be approved in advance by the wardens, which will make it a little easier to approve some routine expenses that we run into all the time without a vestry vote. Anything above $5,000 still requires pre-approval by the vestry. So inflation has had its way with us. We're trying to catch up a little bit. The third change is one that really was engineered by, I believe, Tuck Washburn and Ned Worthington, which is our audit provisions in Article 5, Section 4. Currently, it allows for an audit every year by 3 voting members of the parish. I'm not aware that that has taken place ever. At least, so it's a really ineffective, and it's not really, from a corporate governance standpoint, according to Tuck, it's not really the right way to do an audit. So what this requires is during or immediately following the tenure of any treasurer, there will be a professional audit not done by the firm that presently audits our books every year. And so that was one that Tuck, as a corporate lawyer, felt more comfortable with, and as did members of the vestry. And then the fourth change is we have added a Section 8, which acknowledges our relationship with the St. Thomas Preschool. They are owned by St. Thomas Church. They're an important ministry of St. Thomas Church. As was mentioned, they are a member of the National Association of Episcopal Schools, which recommends that churches that have relationships with preschools should acknowledge that relationship in the bylaws. And so with Mitch's help, we have put in, and I think the model that we were given from the National Association of Episcopal Schools ran about a page and a half. Mitch managed to reduce it to a paragraph that's very readable and acknowledges our relationship with them. So we think it's important to have that in the bylaws. So, any questions or comments? Bless you. So with that, I would ask for, by show of hands, all in favor of amending the bylaws as proposed, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was voting.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Good. That was great. That is my report. Thank you so much.
I'm back. See, that didn't take long. Thank you, Barrett, and thank you, Mitch, for helping with the bylaws. That's a big thing. Wow. All right, vestry elections. So I have a few announcements. So we'll start with vestry elections, and then we'll talk about the appointments. So the vestry elections actually require a vote in this meeting, which we will do in a couple of minutes. So as you all know, Arenze and Tuck are rotating off the vestry this year after their 4-year terms. And so that left 2 positions open that, according to our past and current bylaws, get filled through a process where we form a nominating committee. The nominating committee then comes up with a list of names, usually with the help of other parishioners who kind of come to us and give us ideas of people who would like to serve and who would be good in the role. And so then we go through that process and then come up with a couple of people who have agreed to move forward. And so we have Shyla Davis Cadogan, who has been nominated to stand for vestry. Please. And Shyla, if you could go ahead and stand, just remain standing. And then also Jennifer Piper has been nominated. Jennifer? Thank you. You can sit down now. Thank you. Oh, if you would like to stand, it's okay. So I am really excited about Jennifer and Shyla joining the vestry. It's unfortunate I won't actually get to serve with them, but I know that they're going to be tremendous assets to the group, both bringing unique perspectives. Jennifer's been here for a very, very long time and knows a lot of people and brings a great historic perspective. And Shyla is young, very young, and that is a great thing, right? We want that fresh perspective on the vestry as well to help us do a little more with people who are in their 20s and 30s and get that going, right? So, and Shyla's already done a great job with that. So I think on that note, I will stop and ask for a motion to approve these nominations. Okay, second. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Go ahead and stand up again. Let's. Welcome to the vestry. It'll be great. Okay, and now moving on to the announcement of 2024 vestry appointments, right? So these are people who are stepping in at the request of Reverend Tom into either vestry terms that are being vacated by people who are moving into a different role or moving on to something else, right? So starting with senior warden, we have H. Barrett Peterson, who I call junior, but pretty soon I think he's going to be senior. So he will step into senior warden as I step away. Santa Brooks has agreed to step up as junior warden. Thank you, Santa. I think it'll be great. Tuck Washburn, who I just mentioned, was rotating off the vestry, has agreed to extend his term to fulfill Santa Brooks's unfinished term, right? Okay. And that's just 1 year. Is that correct? Great. Robert Brennan, Bob Brennan, where's Bob? There he is. Hi, Bob. Bob is going to step back in as registrar as Heather retires from that role. She's been doing it for a very long time. We can't even remember how long it's been, so we're just very thankful for it. And then Sue Weich has also been appointed to fulfill Bob Kenyon's term. As you all know, Bob and Carla are going to move to Kansas, right? At the end of the school year, right? So they'll still be with us for a little while, but Bob will not be able to finish his term, and so Sue has agreed to step in for him. So if I could just have all of you stand up so everybody can see who you are. Thank you. So congratulations and welcome to your new roles.
I want to add my thanks to everybody who is stepping up to serve in these new leadership positions. The lay leadership here, as I've said many times, but not enough, is just extraordinary and is such a huge reason why what's happening is happening. So as exciting as it is to welcome new people, I have the sad duty of saying sort of goodbye, thank you to people who are completing their service. And the first is Arinze Akpala. Thank you so much for your service on the vestry. And so we have a gift for you. Arinze is going to continue as head usher and is excited about continuing to support that ministry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
As already mentioned, the Kenyons are moving, and I've tried my best to undermine this move, to sabotage it, but it just isn't sticking. Thank you so much, Bob, for your service on the vestry and just the passion you bring to your work here at St. Thomas's, and I invite you to come forward. And Heather as registrar. So our best guess at the vestry meeting was 10 years, right? That was the guess. And that's a lot of vestry meetings. That's a lot of taking minutes, and always done with so much grace and skill and care for the entire church. So thank you so much for extraordinary service.
A big box thing?
Everybody's wondering what's in there, you know. And finally, our senior warden, Jessie Van Giesen, and I gave her some attention in my sermon. I'm sure she hated every minute of it, but I had to edit it because there's so much more I could have said. Just an extraordinary leader, a wonderful person, great friend, and on behalf of all of us, thank you so much for everything. And your gift.
Sorry, you just have to wait. Okay, maybe not. There we go. Wow. This is one of yours? This is one of Tom's. Very special.
Kind of a stylized photograph. So, yeah, one of the photos. You're welcome. Thank you. So all that is left is for our new senior warden to come forward and call for new business and adjournment. Barrett, thank you.
Any new business?
Thank you. I should have said this earlier, but I did want to just preview something. Part of the Finance Investment Committee's job is to think about the future of the church, and we are going to roll out a small but mighty group of people, teams of two, to come see some of the more seasoned veterans of the community and think about planned giving and bequests and estate kind of stuff. And I just wanted to mention that so that you all who might get a call from us know why we're calling. It's an exciting opportunity and something we're committed to doing and we should do as a community as we think about things going forward. So if your caller ID shows somebody like me, don't not do it.
Thank you, Andy, for that, leading that important charge. Appreciate that. Any other new business? Well, seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second? All in favor? Aye. We're closed. Thank you.